All right, today we're reading chapter 7 of Edward Tulane, and the picture is rather dramatic. A picture of a wave. You'll recall that Edward has fallen off of the boat and is in the water and is thinking, what's going to happen to me? Chapter 7. He told himself that certainly Abilene would come and find him. Seems unlikely. This, Edward thought, is much like waiting for Abilene to come home from school. I will pretend that I'm in the dining room at the house on Egypt Street, waiting for the little hand to move to the 3 and the big hand to move to the 12. If only I had my watch, then I would know for sure. But it doesn't matter. She will be here soon, very soon. Hours passed, and then days, and weeks, and months. Abilene did not come. Edward, for lack of anything better to do, began to think. He thought about the stars. He remembered what they looked like from his bedroom window. What made them shine so brightly, he wondered, and were they still shining somewhere, even though he could not see them? Never in my life, he thought, have I been farther away from the stars than I am now. He considered, too, the fate of the beautiful princess who had become a warthog. Why had she become a warthog? Because the ugly witch turned her into one, that was why. And then the rabbit thought about Pellegrina. He felt in some way that he could not explain to himself that she was responsible for what had happened to him. It was almost as if it was she and not the boys who had thrown Edward overboard. She was like the witch in the story. No, she was the witch in the story. True, she did not turn him to a warthog, but just the same, she was punishing him. Although for what, he could not say. I want to take a moment and think, is this just all in Edward's head, or is there something real to what he's thinking here? We've seen over the course of the story, Pellegrina has been kind of telling this story about a beautiful princess who turns into a warthog, and she's kind of looking meaningfully at Edward like, I'm not saying it, but this is about you. She's like expressing disappointment with Edward that he's not kind of emotional, not like connected to people and loving people around him, even though he's a toy. Like, it seems like there is something going on with Pellegrina. So it's maybe not crazy that he thinks that Pellegrina is responsible for this. But then again, she didn't come to the boat and toss him overboard. Like, she didn't do this. So maybe it is kind of ridiculous. I don't know. On the 297th day of Edward's ordeal, a storm came. 297th, that's almost a whole year. Wow. A year is 365 days. The storm was so powerful that it lifted Edward off the ocean floor and led him in a crazy, wild, and spinning dance. The water pummeled him and lifted him up and shoved him back down. Help! Thought Edward. The storm, in its ferocity, actually flung him all the way out of the sea, and the rabbit glimpsed for a moment the light of an angry and bruised sky, the wind rushing through his ears. It sounded to him like Pellegrina laughing. But before he had time to appreciate being above water, he was tossed back down into the depths. Up and down, back and forth he went until the storm wore itself out, and Edward saw that he was beginning again his slow descent to the floor. Oh, help me, he thought. I can't go back down there. Help me. But still down he went. Down, down, down. And then suddenly the great wide net of a fisherman reached out and grabbed the rabbit. The net lifted him higher and higher until there was an almost unbearable explosion of light, and Edward was back in the world, lying on the deck of a ship surrounded by fish. "Eh, what's this?" said a voice. "Ain't no fish," said another voice, "that's for sure." The light was so brilliant that it was hard for Edward to see, but finally shapes appeared out of the light, and then faces. And Edward realized that he was looking up at 2 men, one young and one old. "Looks like some toy," said the grizzled old man. He bent and picked Edward up and held him by his front paws, considering him. "A rabbit, I reckon. It's got whiskers, and rabbit ears, or the shape of rabbit ears at least." Yeah, sure, a rabbit toy, said the younger man, and he turned away. I'll take it home to Nellie. Let her fix it up and set it to rights. Give it to some child. The old man placed Edward carefully on a crate, positioning him so that he was sitting up and could look out at the sea. Edward appreciated the courtesy of this small gesture, but he was heartily sick of the ocean and would have been satisfied never to set eyes on it again. There you go, said the old man. As they made their way back to shore, Edward felt the sun on his face and the wind blowing through the little bit of fur left on his ears, and something filled his chest. A wonderful feeling. He was glad to be alive. Look at that rabbit, the old man said. Looks like it's enjoying the ride, don't it? Yep, said the young man. In fact, Edward Tulane was so happy to be back among the living that he did not even take umbrage. He wasn't even offended at being referred to as it. So already this experience is changing Edward. Wonder if you've had any experiences like this that have changed you, where you were not a kind person, not a thoughtful person, not a caring person, not an emotional person in a certain way until something difficult or bad happened to you and you had to deal with it. That's what we're seeing with Edward, I think. So we'll continue to see that. Bye for now, readers.